The time is just gone 9:25 a.m. We continue this morning, and we're now going across to be joined by the CEO of AfriForum, Kallie Kriel. We're talking about an approach to the Constitutional Court in a bid for Western Cape secession. Kallie, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you, sir. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Right, Kallie, let's talk about this approach of AfriForum, the Constitutional Court, and the key issue here is to change South African legislation to give premiers the power to call for referendums. And also, we're talking about the question of the Western Cape gaining more autonomy.
Yes, definitely more autonomy. It's not a question of secession. But let me start off with the first part of your question. At the moment, the legislation that regulates referendums is the Act of 1993, which was used for the tricameral parliament referendum, as well as the 1992 referendum. And both those referendums were called by the president of the country. And therefore, the legislation only allows for the president to call a referendum. But if you go and have a look at the country's constitution, it now says that a premier or the president can call a referendum. So the legislation is not in line with the constitution. And that's why we are going to the Constitutional Court to say they should make a finding that the legislation should be altered. Of course, they cannot alter the legislation. But we have seen in the past that the Constitutional Court, for instance, gave Parliament 12 months to rectify certain legislation. So that is the route we are taking. We know, for instance, that the DA also has a process in Parliament where they have introduced legislation where they want to rectify it. But of course, in Parliament, you can have a situation where the ANC, who we know love the centralist system that gives them a lot of power, that they would oppose it. But if they get an order from the finding from the Constitutional Court that says they must change it, then we believe it will go through. So we are quite hopeful that we'll be successful.
Yes. Now, obviously, we've seen there are many other parts around the world where a province or an area is part and parcel of the country, but they have got a certain degree of autonomy. And we're not talking about total independence, but to an extent, for the province to be able to make certain decisions, to make certain calls through a referendum, covering certain specific issues that may impact on the province itself.
Yes, most definitely. And I think it's an internationally accepted principle, the whole issue of federalism. But where it comes from our we believe that communities know what is best for them. For instance, you cannot have a centralist government deciding for the Muslim community or any other religious community what is good for them. The community knows what is best for them. The same with regard to towns, the same with regard to regions, and the same with regard to provinces. Because if you have somebody sitting in Pretoria that has to take decisions across the country, they are not acquainted with specifically every region's needs. And then you have a situation where we see failure, as we are seeing in the current state, because we have a lot of centralized power, and because you, at this stage, have a corrupt government, an incompetent government, then that corruption and incompetence is spread all across the country. So we're saying, it's not a foreign concept, that communities should decide for themselves, towns should decide for themselves, and provinces should do so. And that, of course, if you go and have a look at a number of issues, let's just take the Western Cape fishing industry in the West Coast. There's been colored communities that have been fishing there for centuries. But now you have somebody taking a decision sitting in Pretoria with regard to fishing quotas. If you look at the whole policing system, you have a Bekitsele coming into the Western Cape onto the beaches, intimidating people with guards that are very highly armed. But those kind of things is not acceptable. You need the province to have more powers, and that is what we are working for.
Yes. Now, one of the primary motivations, Kallie, has been what is called tax federalism. And I think this is important for us to understand in terms of provinces and the taxes that they collect, and how does the province actually benefit from taxation. So that is also one of the key issues or critical issues that is playing out in terms of your motivation.
Yes, and it's the same. Let's just take it from individual level. If I spend my own money, it's just natural that you will take care to make sure that you turn your cents around. If you spend somebody else's money, then of course there's not that same portion, and it also applies here. What we're seeing is that, well, all of us also in many communities pay large amounts of tax, but that money is centralized into a central government. And when there is corruption, of course, centralism makes it easier to steal. So also in terms of tax, we believe that the tax should be allocated. Of course, if you look internationally at various examples, even for instance, South Tyrol in Italy, 90% of the tax they pay comes back to their province, and 10% is being used for the central government, where they have to look, for instance, after the army and international relations. So we would want to make sure that the money comes back, because what is happening now in the Western Cape, people are paying tax for safety. That money is going to the central government, but now you have them when there should be 25,000 police officers. The central or the South African Police Service only appointed 20,000, or they did not fill 5,000 positions. So people are paying for safety, and the people taking decisions with regard to what is happening to the money simply don't fill positions. And if that money was allocated to the province, they would have made sure that all those vacant positions would have been filled, because they live in a situation, we see crime, we see gangsterism, but at the moment the hands are cut off. The money goes to the central government and it doesn't come back, and they bear the brunt of crime. So those are the kind of issues that I think is very important.
Well, Kallie, we're going to follow developments as they unfold, but for now, we thank you for your time with us this morning here on News and Views on Salam Media. All the best to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and also to all your listeners. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Kallie Kriel, CEO of AfriForum, with us this morning.
Every 60 seconds, a silent